Alright, my fellow orcs, goblins, and trolls, we are now back with a showdown between the Greenskins, who shall be led by the Baconator, and the Tomb Kings, who are going to be helmed by the Dreadlord himself, Grandpa Kotep. And for anyone who doesn't know, I'm sure all of you guys who play Greenskins quite a bit know this, but Kotep is an extremely deadly pick against the Greenskins. Definitely not a joke, so let's go ahead and show you guys why. So Kotep, well, there's only one reason why. Kotep has a really powerful item called the Lich Staff, and if you guys look here, let's go ahead and find it. Whenever he casts a spell, or you can see it's active when he's casting, it affects all enemies on the entire map. It adds 15 seconds to all of their abilities. So this is going to add 15 seconds to the wall, which means, much like Arcane and Forging, you simply just cannot use it until you recharge it. But with the rate at which Kotep can cast spells, so he can cast it with, Narrow's Incantation and the Cursed Blades, it's going to be really tough to get a while off against the Tomb Kings, and that is really, a heavy nerf to the Greenskin army. So the Lich Staff, very good. It's also going to add 15 seconds to your simple spells like Ere We Go and Fist of Gork, Gaze and Mork, and if you're going to be going with like the Goblin Sniping Squad, using the Night Goblin Shamans to try and snipe with Vindictive Glare, it's also going to hurt that a little bit. But even still, you should be able to get those off, because the cooldown will come down naturally. But with things like WoW that only recharge when you're in combat, it is extremely punishing. So Kotep's going to be riding dirty and definitely doing some work against my army. But anyways, for my force, pretty elite core in the front line. It's going to be Black Orcs, which I think are very good, just so good in this matchup. Now, they're not as much of a specialist as, let's say, like a Swordmaster of Hoeth or a Harganeth Executioners. They're more of like a general, I would say like a generalist armor piercing troop, because they just have really high weapon strength with good armor piercing. They don't have a bonus versus infantry, which means usually their stats are going to be a little bit more geared towards fighting either armored infantry or armored big boys. So against Tomb Kings, they're pretty good. You can put them in the front line. They're going to be able to pound down all of the infantry. Tomb Guards, Skeleton Warriors will just get put in a trash can by Black Orcs. And if they send in things like Tomb Scorpions and Ushapti, at the very least, they're going to be able to hold because they're immune to psychology, and they're going to be able to do some decent armor piercing damage. So Black Orcs definitely my favorite choice in this matchup. Now we're going to be mixing in two groups of the Orc Biggins. These guys are pretty high DPS, 42 weapon strength, 38 melee attack, and they have a bonus for large as well. Now they're not super good against constructs because their AP is a little bit low, but nonetheless, I feel like they make an okay frontline choice here. So we're going to be mixing them in. I don't know why my tongue just got like wrapped around my head right there, but we're going to be mixing them in with the front line of the Black Orcs and seeing how they do. We do have the Crimson Killers in the middle, who I think pound for pound are probably the strongest infantry unit in the game now. They used to have 45 models, but now they have 60. They have splash attacks. These guys just do work. 50 weapon strength, 43 melee attack, 36 melee defense, and 110 armor. What's really cool about these guys is they actually win against like all other great weapon troops. It doesn't matter for this matchup, but I did a little bit of testing. They beat Chosen with great weapons. They beat the Blades of the Blood Queen. They beat them all. So these guys are the new big boys on the block, and they're going to be coming in and doing some work. So that's it for the front line. We got two groups of trolls in the back. Trolls, one of my favorite choices in this matchup as well. A little bit of an issue with terror here because they can be terror routed, but if they're able to get on a Tomb Scorpion with some buffing or get on a Kemrian War Sphinx, they have high mass, they have high armor piercing, they are just masters at beating down constructs. On top of that, we have Orc Airboys, we have the Rustiers here in the back, a second group of Orc Airboys, and two groups of Forest Goblin Spider Riders who will be used defensively, so inevitably when the constructs do get through the front line, the Forest Goblin Spider Riders will be pouring through to kind of block those guys up. Last but not least, two groups of the Loyal Lads on the flanks, Goblin Wolf Riders. We have two of those guys going to be trying to get into the archers. So for my opponent's army, he does have the Carrion here. He has two groups of Carrion, very good for harassing and just kind of scouting. On top of that, front line's just going to be Skeleton Warriors and Chaff, which is pretty much standard. You're just going to be getting your value from your constructs, and he definitely has some pretty good construct play. So he does have a Tomb Scorpion, a Kemrian War Sphinx in the back, which are very tough for the Greenskins to deal with. I mean, Greenskin Archer play doesn't have the best AP, so it's always very hard. And you have to get like, Orc Warboy Biggins are pretty terrible, generally speaking, so you have to use Trolls and just kind of grind these guys down. It's a little bit tricky for sure. Kotep, two groups of Skeleton Archers. It's very strange picks for sure, but these guys arguably not bad against like Trolls. They have anti-large, they have AP, so they can kind of work on Black Orcs, fend off Trolls. If somebody comes in with like a Wild Ragnarok Queen pick, they're also going to be pretty good against those. Now, I would hesitate to call these guys really good, but nonetheless, they do have a bit of a niche in the Greenskin matchup. He does also have the Hides of the Desert back here, who he's going to be using as a backline screen. You can see my opponent very privy to my Goblin Wolf Rider play and is going to be trying to head me off there. Same with the Kemrian War Sphinx. In the meantime, my army is going to be advancing. The boys are going to be coming out of the forest. Kotep has rained some hot fire. He's dropped to the base a little bit on these Black Orcs. It looks like he has taken out one model, so we're going to see if this volley does some good damage here. And it does pour into the Black Orcs, and it looks like he might have gotten one finally. Nope, Black Orcs are pretty durable. They've only taken one loss so far, and the Piggy Boy is going to be moving forward. So at this point, my WoW is on the cooldown because I believe Kotep did cast a spell. I think he just cast like Narrow's Incantation on some Skeleton Archers to make it so I couldn't use WoW right away. So if you guys are wondering why the WoW isn't being popped throughout the battle, that is why. So right there, a missile attack, the Gaze of Mort going down, and it does some pretty good damage to Kotep. He does respond with a Narrow's Incantation, probably just to add cooldowns to my abilities. I don't think he was trying to mitigate the damage from that, obviously. And the Greenskins are going to be advancing here. You can see the Lich Staff effect finishing its second trigger right there. So it's hit me twice, so now I have 30 seconds on the wall before I can use it. which is definitely very punishing. In the back line, Goblin Wolf Riders do get caught up. I actually slip on my micro a little bit. Thought I was going to be able to kind of slip through here, but I do get caught up. The other one on the flanks is going to get chased off by the Tomb Scorpion, so I'm going to be very patient and just hide these guys in the trees and just, you know, come out in a minute here. In the front line, we're about to do some crumping. The boys are about to get crumping here on the Skeleton Warriors. This is going to be a pretty good matchup as the Biggins are just going to grind through Skeleton Warriors. Unfortunately, I do not have the wow effect, but Warzog's going to be jumping in, dropping the Bonewood Staff, or I guess Ere We Go, which then triggers the Bonewood Staff. So we're still going to be getting a big buff, and but still a pretty big nullification of my initial impact. So the Black Orc's going to be chopping these Skeleton Warriors in the center. All the fights are going pretty well. Kotep does drop his Vortex here on the Crimson Killis, which is a good choice, but the Crimson Killis are just grinding out these Skeleton Warriors, doing huge damage. But the Cambrian War Sphinx comes in, and from there I do use the, FG of the Git on him. And the Trolls are going to be piling in using their Mass and their AP, and all of my archers are going to be shooting at the Cambrian War Sphinx. It's a huge threat against Greenskins. He does use Narrow's Incantation and Protection, so beautiful play right there, but we need to put that thing down. And so far the damage is pretty good. I'm going to be using the Forest Goblin Spider Riders in the back to just fend off Carrion, and once he does break through the Trolls and the Crimson Killis, I'm going to be able to kind of pin him down with the Goblins. In the back, the Wolf Riders do get back here, but he gets a very good Usarian's Incantation of Vengeance to slow their speed, do a little bit of damage, but the Skeleton Archers, you know, they're actually not that much worse in terms of combat stats compared to Wolf Riders, but we are able to shut down a little bit of that firepower, which is very nice. And in the back, the Cambrian War Sphinx has terror-routed one group of Trolls very, very quickly, but that was largely because of the Archer Fire, which was able to just pelt just do tons of damage against those guys. But so far, it's a very even fight. Bounce of Power is pretty much dead center here. Biggins and the other troops in the front doing very good, grinding out these Skeleton Warriors. Eventually will engage with the Tomb Guard. And here the Crimson Killis do have the Fist of Gork, which gives them juicy stats. 69, that's what she said, and 63 melee defense, and huge AP. So they're actually putting a bit of hurt on this Tomb Scorpion, which is nice. I mean, arguably I should have pushed them through to try and get into the back line, but I figured, hey, if the Tomb Scorpion's going to sit and fight, I have my buffs, we're going to go. So finally, there is a bit of a lapse in Kotep's casting, and I was making a very conscious effort to keep Warzog in melee combat the entire time, so I could finally get one of those effigies off, and I do get that big juicy wah. The front line is going well, Tomb Scorpion's going down, and the Cambrian War Sphinx is in some trouble. I've used Forest Goblin Spider Riders, Biggins, as well as some unfortunate Orc Air Boys to kind of fight him in melee combat. And we're getting some really good damage. He's getting pretty close to going down, not quite to the point of like devastating crumbling. He's able to stabilize his leadership at 8 right here. Warzog charges in with the steel chair, tries to put him down, but the Narrow's Incantation play has been very good for my opponent. He is going to be using these Sepulchral Stalkers to kind of pile in there and deal with some of the boys, so it's going to be a little bit tricky for the lads. And in the back, the Ushapti summon has gone down for my opponent. Obviously, I killed his troops very quickly, so he was able to get this proc very, very fast. And the Rusty Arrows and my Orc Air Boys are just being taken apart by these Ushapti, which is unfortunate. Losing my, my firing line back here, I wasn't able to finish off the Cambrian War Sphinx simply because of this Ushapti summon. So very, very tight game. Some of the Black Orcs on the flank have done a good job just killing the Skeleton Warriors here, and they're going to be pushing into the back line. But really, the name of the game so far has been the Crimson Killis. These guys just beat through the front line. They beat down that Tomb Scorpion. They didn't kill it, but they were able to kind of fend it back. And now they're going to be pushing back here with their massive armor-piercing skill, killing Skeleton Archers, killing Sepulchral Stalkers, just doing a beautiful job. And Kotep is dropping his fire on them. Pretty much a lot of the Tomb King's resources, the Eyes of the Desert, Tomb Scorpion, really have to deal with a lot of back here. These Black Orcs, Crimson Killis up to 59 kills, definitely not bad. In the meantime, the Cambrian War Sphinx is now crumbling. It's at -2. I'm trying to drop some fire here with Warzog. I believe I was using a missile attack, but for some reason it didn't go off. Maybe Kotep kind of shut it down, but no, here comes a missile attack. It hits, and it takes the Cambrian War Sphinx down to 341 HP. It's getting very low, and if we can kill that, getting rid of the constructs is so huge in this matchup. I do also use Fist of Gork on these Black Orcs to make sure they can actually punch through these Sepulchral Stalkers. And in the back, we're going to be slipping the tip in. The Forest Goblin Spider Riders, as well as the other group, are able to come back from route, and they're going to be jumping on the Archers, which is going to be super important here. And Kotep dropping another Vortex right here on top of my Black Orcs. Doesn't look like it did too much damage. I think it kind of spun the wrong way, which is a little bit unfortunate. But my opponent does respond very quickly, pulling back these Stalkers to kind of intercept my Goblins. They're pretty good for that. They have anti-large, relatively quick with 50 speed, and they are able to shut down a lot of my Goblin Wolf Rider, as well as Forest Goblin Spider Rider play. But the Black Orcs in the back are just not going quietly into this good night. They're beating down the Stalkers. They're able to fend off the Scorpion even. I mean, the Scorpion is pretty much a natural counter against Black Orcs, but, they're one of the great open infantry that can put up a bit of a better fight. Now, the bounce power is pretty even, but I feel like I'm starting to get in a little bit of an advantageous position as my Black Orcs and all these other troops are pushing back here. They're able to corral the Eyes of the Desert, and that Gaze and Mork doing some huge damage against Grand Hero and Kotep. And in the back, there are some rallying troops for the Tomb Kings. I wouldn't say rallying, but they were able to chase off some Biggins, and now they're coming back to play. But my Trolls, I've been keeping in the back. I actually hid them in the forest for quite some time to let them heal a little bit. They were able to fend off the War Sphinx and come back from the route, and now these Trolls are going to be just going to pound town on these guys. Just beautiful stuff, coming in with the overhead Axe Club. And these guys are so awesome. I love trolls in this matchup. And the archers are pretty much shut down for the most part. So now the trolls are really going to shine. You can see just some Chuck Norris roundhouse kicks coming in. These guys are just doing great stuff. They're going to have some supporting big guns coming in as well, which should, definitely be pretty helpful. But the Tomb Guard are going to be crumbling very quick under the pressure of 22 trolls. So that's definitely no joke. And the Black Orcs are really the heroes, though. They're able to stay in the back line and not break. Now, if they were able to break, the Eyes of the Desert would be able to go over here and pretty much kill the trolls. It'd be very tough to take them out because, well, I mean, the trolls would do good damage as well, but the Eyes of the Desert and Stalkers in general have very good anti-large. They have poison. I mean, they would do pretty good work against the standard troll. Warzog in the meantime is going to be dropping buffs. Here we go. Has gone down, triggering the Bonewood Staff, putting Black Orcs up to 94 melee attack, which pretty much guarantees they're going to be hitting whatever they're fighting. Some of my archers are coming back as well. You can see the Orc Air Boys as well as the Rusty Airs, I think, have come back from the sunset. This Scorpion's going to be going in to send a message as the game does come into its twilight hour, but the Tomb Scorpion definitely a menace for the Greenskins. I do have another effigy to get, so I'm going to be dropping it right here, and the trolls are coming in, and these guys are pissed. They've been terrified one too many times, and they should be able to finish off this Tomb Scorpion. He's going to be dying due to army losses, but we'll just make it look like the trolls are going to be clubbing them. So here they come, and yes, they're coming in with huge AP damage, and they are able to finish off that Tomb Scorpion, and the boys are back in town. They're going to be jumping in. Kotep is going to be the last of his kin to fall, and that's going to be all she wrote for the Tomb King. So very well played to my opponent. That is a nasty, nasty item. The Bonewood Staff really just so good against Greenskins. It adds a cooldown to your effigy, to your Wa, which is really the big thing, of course, and it shuts down all those fast rapid-fire spells that you really want to be using with the Greenskins, so it's a really, really nasty item for sure. And I hadn't encountered this in quite some time, because I don't think I played Greenskins versus Tomb Kings in at least like 3 or 4 months, so... And back then it wasn't as popular, but man, it is really, really strong against Greenskins. Definitely took a bit of work to deal with. Granted, there is a bit of an argument to be made that, Ark in the Black might be better with his Chariot and his summons and, having, what is it called? The Tomb Blade of Arkin. But I mean, I think Kotep is probably the best choice. I mean, that is just so good. Being able to shut down Wa. I mean, Arkin and Forging with the High Elves and Alariel is pretty much a must pick against Greenskins because of shutting down the Wa. I mean, it really just kind of softens the impact. Granted, Bonewood Staff kind of does make up for that. So, Frontline was pretty good, 100, 77, 94, 72, 156, 0, 10, 2. For the archers, not the best, but they were shooting constructs. That initial effigy and the follow-up with the trolls, able to just do that massive lethal damage against the Khemrian War Sphinx, I think at the end of the day was what won the game for us. Because had that Khemrian War Sphinx ran rampant and been able to just run over Black Orcs, it would have just done so much damage. The Wolf Rider play was a little bit sloppy. I definitely got caught up, but in the end, we were able to get in and temporarily shut down the archers, which wasn't bad. And the Forest Goblin Spider Riders, of course, using their mass and their poison was pretty much crucial in taking down the big constructs. But as far as my opponent's build, I liked it. Kotep's pretty good, just going with Chaff and Constructs I think is solid. The one thing I would probably change, I'm still not a huge fan of the Stalkers. Maybe just keep one if you want to kind of experiment with them and get a second Tomb Scorpion. I think that's going to be really good. And a couple groups of Skeleton Spears as well might be very, very good against Trolls and just kind of defending the back line. So that's pretty much it. I mean, his build was really good and it was a close game. So very well played to my opponent. Name of Fish. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Greenskin versus Tomb King showdown. We will see you guys next time. Take care.